Hello and welcome to A Cat in the Garden. I know I'm wearing long sleeves, but I actually had to turn on the AC because it's hot here. It is 80 degrees now. We went from winter to spring/summer in the matter of a few days. Over the weekend, we had a freeze. We had a whole freeze. It was 30 degrees, 29 degrees, and today and yesterday have been in the 80s. So spring's here. I'm probably gonna take the shirt off as soon as we're done with this video, but I really like it and it's brand new and I wanted to wear it, and I wore it this morning before it got to 80 degrees. So, you know, we're going with it today. And I really wanted to do an update for you all. I haven't done an update in a while. I wanted to update the plants that were my most recent unboxings. I had to go back pretty far last year in my last plant purchases. I actually am going to include some that I got at the Texas Aroid show as well, because I know a lot of you came to my channel because of that, and those plants were awesome. Not gonna lie about that though. They were amazing plants, so I'm gonna put a couple of those in here for the updates, but mostly plants that were my most recent unboxings. So in December and November of last year, I still have not bought a plant yet this year, so that's probably gonna change because I'm going to a Hoya open house this weekend. But yeah, I had to go back quite a ways for these, and that's okay because my last couple of plant purchases at the end of last year were bigger ones. I did bring in a few new plants, so we're just gonna update them and show you how they're doing. Some of them have better updates than others. Some of them are growing more than others, and they're almost exclusively Hoya, which I'm not surprised about at all. So we'll just go ahead and work our way backwards. I guess start with the most recent. And that was my last plant purchase of the year. That was from Sam's Hoyas. He's actually having another purge today. No, yeah, today when you guys see it. So tomorrow for me, because I'm filming this on Thursday. So he's having one today, I think. And I'm probably gonna buy something from that too. Not gonna lie. So we'll just go with them, and I will start with this one here. This is the, oh, excuse you. Okay, he wants down. You go sniff around. This is the Hoya XQ, also known as Snow Silver. As you can see, it has grown quite a lot since I bought it as a one leaf cutting. We have grown 1, 2, and now 3 leaves. I did give it this plant stake, this iridescent Arca plant stake that I love. I want to get it trellising on here. I just don't want to hurt the active growth. So I'm going to try and encourage it as it grows to go up this plant stake, but I really don't want to mess it up at all. So we're just going to let it do its thing. The new leaves have quite a lot of silver. This one has like a little streak of green right there. But other than that, they are absolutely beautiful. I don't mind the green streak. I think it's really unique. It's really pretty. This has been happily growing, happily rooting. Let's check it out. Yeah, there's a good amount of roots in there. It's definitely not ready for a new pot yet. Let's see if you can see, there's some roots coming out here. A lot of humidity going on in here, which I really like because I don't have the highest humidity even in the cabinets. But other than that, all of those things aside, this has been a very happy new addition. I honestly don't talk about it enough because of my favorite plant from this order is a different one, but this is honestly really high up on my list right now of Hoyas. It's just been really easy going so far. I'm thinking about giving it some fertilizer soon just because it is actively growing, a lot more established than I thought it was when I got it, but it's great. It's a great plant. I don't regret buying it whatsoever. I think I got it for very cheap too. I want to say about $20, maybe 15, something like that. Again, it only had 1 leaf, but for what I paid, I'm getting a lot out of it right now. And so this is definitely a happier update. The next plant from this order from Sam's Hoyas is probably the least happy plant here. And that's okay because I only paid $10 for this one and I didn't really know what I was getting into. This is the Hoya Singi Intervariegated. I got it at a discount because it's pretty low variegation and it kind of hates me. It hates me, it hates its life. I don't see, there's a root on the side here. You can see that. So it's definitely not as established. It's tried to grow a couple times. This leaf is kind of got stuff on it. It has attempted to grow, but it's a lot thirstier than I realized it would be. And I think that is a lot of the problem. When it dries out, it is instantly thirsty. The leaves don't hold water as much as I would expect it to, given that they are a little bit thicker. They're not a super thin leaf. And thus, any new growth point it puts out has just shriveled up and died. So I don't know about this one. I don't know if it's gonna make it. I don't know if it's gonna do well for me. I'm gonna try. I'm going to keep trying with it, but that's really all I can say. It's just not happy with life right now. I will continue to try with it and do my best, but right now it's just not the happiest. Maybe I should give it some fertilizer as well, just because it does have roots. Like, it can handle some fertilizer at this point. And if it does better, maybe I'll give you guys an update later, but yeah, not the happiest right now. Lastly from this order is the plant that I cannot talk about enough, and that is my Hoya XQ 023, also known as Hoya XQ 023. This is the splash, so you can find these with no splash, with splash like this, or full silver. The full silver are the most expensive, a little bit harder to find. It of course grew this beautiful new leaf that is now hardened off as soon as it came to me. I told you guys when I got it, there was a new leaf growing right here, and I was like, that's gonna die, because it was pushing right up against this one. It died, not worried about that at all. This new leaf is great. It still has an active growth point, so I'm hoping maybe once I give it some fertilizer that will do well. Also, the roots on this one are the best out of all of the ones that I got, and it kind of makes sense. This has a lot bigger leaves, has a lot more going on, I think. Whereas the Snow Quisilver, the XQ, that one has smaller leaves, the roots are thinner. This one has got some really nice thick roots that you can clearly see on the cup. Again, nice humidity in here. Probably do some fertilizer, but this is my favorite plant purchase of the year last year, so I just love it. I love it so much, and I'm really hoping to get it on a trellis soon. I really want it on a bigger trellis. I don't think it would do well on this type of stake trellis, just because this is pretty small and a leaf is almost the size of that. So I'll wait till it's got a little bit more growth, maybe repot it, get it on one of the taller Arca trellises, like the Petite or the original. So just keep an eye out. Maybe I'll update that in a month or two, probably 2 or 3. But other than that, just gonna let it hang out, do its thing, and just let it be a happy plant, because it's making me really happy right now, that's for sure. So that is it for my last order of the year from Sam's Hoyas. We're gonna move on now to a different order. For this order, I only have one to show, and it's going to look a bit different than it looked when I purchased it. And this was my last order from Lauren's Leaves in November. Unfortunately, the black cat died almost immediately. I don't really know what went wrong with this one, but then the Lacosa Mr Tent is alive. I know it looks much smaller. I accidentally underwatered it pretty recently. Didn't realize how thirsty of a plant this was. There's a pattern here. So I lost a lot of the plant. I was able to save 2 cuttings. I have one in here because it did root fairly well, and I just put it in here. So here is the cutting, and then I have another cutting that is still in water. I like to stabilize the cuttings in water first before I put them in these cups, and then I put them in a prop box until they're more established and growing, and then I take them out. So it's gonna be fine. It's just gonna take a little bit more time to get it back to the nice bushy plant that it was, but I'll be patient with it because I've saved it. I've got it in moss now, which works better for me than a chunky mix. That's part of the problem. The chunky mix with a small thirsty Hoya is just not for me. I don't have the humidity for that. I need things like moss, I need tree fern, I need cash pots like this. So this I think will be a better scenario. I think this plant will be on the up soon, and I'm just happy I was able to save 2 cuttings. I do have a Lacosa in a hanging basket now where the same thing happened. I lost most of the plant when I moved. It really didn't like moving, and I was able to save 3 cuttings, and now it is a super full, bushy 6-inch hanging basket again. So it's possible. That plant took about a year to get to that point, so I'm not really too concerned about this, so that's fine. Moving on to the next order with Nutmeg's tail just in the way. There you go, bud. I have 2 plants from this order. This one's got stuff on it too. Everything's got little like dust on them today. I have 2 plants from this order. The third one, so this one was from Black Cat Garden Shop. I had originally 3 plants in the order. Unfortunately, the one that was not a Hoya died. It was the Monstera leclerriana. It just didn't come in super happy. I had it stabilized in water for a while and then it just rotted. So I don't really know. It was having some issues, but it's all right. It's all right. 99% of the time, my plants that come from her are great. I hardly ever have issues, so it's just an outlier. It's a fluke. The other 2 plants are doing wonderful. So this is the first one. This one I got as one of her bonus listings. They're usually like $3 to $5. This is the Hoya Vertica Splash. I think this is formerly known as Parasitica. This one isn't the most splashy, but I like it. I like it. I wanted another one. It was cheap. You know, I'm eventually gonna combine it with the one I have just so I can have them all together. But this one has rooted pretty nicely. The roots on this one are also super thin, so I don't know if you will be able to see them, but there's a lot of roots in there. So that's all rooted up. I had it in a prop box until recently. Then I moved it to the Mills bow behind me and it grew this vine. So not an indecent vine. I guess I could give it a trellis or a plant stake if I really wanted to. I may not. I may wait till I combine it. Just kind of deciding what to do with it right now. And I'll see if it grows any leaves. So that's what it's done. The second one from the order hasn't done as much. So this is the Verticulata or Acuta Alba Marginada. So really cute plant. I like it a lot. I do have it in this cash pot scenario because Lowe's has terracotta pots without drainage again, which I'm very happy about. I think I've bought 10 of them so far. Might go buy more, you never know. And this one has also rooted really well. The roots aren't quite as thin. They're a little fuzzier, so they are easier to see on the pot. And I think it's starting to activate a growth point. Not too sure. It just hasn't done too much. It's gonna be really hard to see down in the center, so just take my word for it, I guess. But that's really all it's done. I also recently took it out of the prop box, so it's just living its best life in the Mills bow right next to the Verticulata Splash. And I'm just gonna wait. It could take time. Maybe some fertilizer will help. I am due to re-fertilize a lot of my plants. I actually fertilized everything up there this morning. I like to do things in batches with plant care just to make things easier on me. It gets really overwhelming if I need to do everything at once. So even when I'm just watering, I'll do one cabinet at a time. I'll do that shelf all at once. I've got some new shelves over there I'll do all at once. I'll do my propagation greenhouse for my Etsy shop. I'll do all of that at once just to make things more manageable. So when I get around to fertilizing this cabinet, this will probably get some fertilizer as well. And maybe that'll help. Who knows, spring is coming, more growth may come soon. One of the issues with a lot of these plants not growing is that I got them when it was starting to get cooler or it was already cold. So their growth is gonna be a little bit slower. I know this one, both of these from this order were not rooted. Almost all of the cuttings from Black Cat Garden Shop are not rooted. So these are going to take a lot longer to establish than something like this. A lot of the Hoyas from Sam's Hoyas come either lightly rooted, fully rooted, already growing. So no matter what, there's at least some root activity on these before he ships them out versus the unrooted cuttings. So you can see the difference in the growth rates with something that already has roots versus something that doesn't. So I'm not surprised by that at all. Just going to be patient. Some Hoyas really like to take a lot of time to grow, and that's okay. So we'll just be patient with those two. The fact that this verticulata has already grown this much of a runner says volumes, and I'm really happy with that. I'm gonna count this as a win. Both plants really, they're rooted, they're healthy, and they're happy. So what more can you ask for? Lastly, I'm going to give some updates on some plants from the Texas Aroid show. I don't have all of the ones that I bought there with me, though all of them are alive except the carry-eye, which I knew when I bought it. I was like, it's gonna die. It's gonna die. They were just like little semi-rooted cuttings. Of course they were gonna die. I heard that the plant was difficult. So unfortunately, I'm giving up on that one for now. Maybe if I can find an established already growing plant for cheap, I'll get it. But yeah, my husband was not happy with me about that one because that was one of the more expensive plants I bought that day. But you live and you learn. Listen to people who say a plant is difficult and proceed with caution. That's my advice. This is the Parva Flora Splash that I got from the Texas Aroid show. I have it in this old candle holder from Christmas, which, I mean, candle holders make the best pots, honestly. I really like them for that purpose. But this plant has done pretty much nothing since I got it. I mean, it's alive, it's healthy. It's got some roots actually coming out of the bottom of the pot. They're very small though, so I don't think the camera would pick them up. I don't really see any new, oh, there's like a very tiny, there's two. Okay, there's two extremely tiny new growth points on the plant. So maybe with spring approaching, it will start growing again. But this plant, as you can see, has grown into just a cluster. I think there are going to be a million growth points coming out of this. And I do think this would actually probably be a better candidate, depending on how it grows. But I think it would be a better candidate for trailing versus on a trellis, but I will see. It's almost reminding me of a Lacosa in just the leaf shape, the cluster formation. So maybe it will trail. If it's looking a little bit leggy, I might give it a trellis. We'll just have to see once it starts growing. But I think with spring approaching and of course some fertilizer, I think it's gonna start growing just fine. Those active growth points. Oh my gosh, wait, we do have a vine coming out. Okay. Oh, I don't know if you're gonna see that. I have to move some leaves over to show it off. Okay, you can kind of see the tip of a tiny leaf right there. There you go. There's a new vine. Oh my gosh. Okay, so it was hiding. We have a new vine. There's two new leaves coming out of that. So yeah, it's spring. This is gonna happen now. I'm very excited about that. This is a better update than I thought I was gonna be able to give y'all. So that is awesome for that one. Next, I have probably the most expensive plant that I purchased that day, and that is my Scindapsus Mayari. This was my favorite plant purchase of the day, and I am a little bit sad to see that it has not done anything in terms of new growth since I got it. It does have, if I can take out the tag, it does seem to have rooted from a node here into the pot, if you can see that. That's about it. I do think I'm going to hit this with some fertilizer as well. I was really hoping I would have been able to get this on a moss pole soon after I bought it, but I'm really scared to repot it now because there's a dead root that was coming out of the bottom, but nothing else, no other activity. So we'll see. I did underwater it one time and it curled up a little bit, but it perked up, and that was a couple months ago. It perked up after. It seems to be doing fine. Like the leaves are very thick, they're very taut, they're not curling up, they're not wilted at all. So Scindapsus can also be really slow. The fact that this is variegated on top of it, you don't have as much green foliage photosynthesizing, so this might just take a while. I'm gonna hit it with some fertilizer, see if that helps, see if spring helps, but I don't know, we're we're just gonna wait on this one. I also have it in a shaded area of this cabinet because I've noticed that Scindapsus, somewhat like Anthurium, can be sensitive to brighter light. So I do have this in a shaded area, not getting as much light, but I think that will help it out in the long run. So that's what I'm just gonna keep doing with that one. Last but certainly not least, I have the Wilbur Graves Silver. This one was also a favorite in terms of my plant purchases at the Texas Arid Show. This hasn't done much, I will say. It really hasn't done much at all. I don't see roots. I want to say, oh, there's like a root at the bottom there. Very, very tiny, hard to notice, but it is a nice whitish green root, so that's healthy. I honestly think this was probably a semi-rooted cutting when I bought it. It did have new growth because this was the top cut, and that's why it was more expensive. That's why I bought it, just because it was top cut, actively growing. And it did have these two little leaves starting to grow when I got it, but they've never hardened off like these have. I did just water it, so they are a little bit flimsy, but they are very small and they didn't harden off. So I don't know. I gave it this stake. I'm a little too nervous to fully attach it to the stake right now, but we'll see. I'm still hopeful for it. I am. I think that it can grow really happily. I think it went into some shock after being cut, being transported to the show, being transported back here, dealing with winter. This plant has been through a lot. So I'm going to exercise patience with it, just like some of the other cuttings that I got, and just hope that in the spring this will grow really quickly, because I have a couple of other Wilbur Graves varieties and they do grow really well. So we'll see. So that is it for our house plant update, my most recent plant purchases from the end of last year. I'd say it's mostly positive. You know, a lot of these things were small, they were barely rooted cuttings or no roots at all. So I can't really expect them to be a big, beautiful, full plant in just a few months. The ones that I've had the longest, I bought at the very end of October 29th. So I've had them for 3.5 months. And those were just the ones I've had the longest. The ones from Sam's Hoyas I've had for 2 months. So it really hasn't been that much time. I am very pleased to see that there has been a lot of new growth in just that short time though, a lot of new roots, some very happy plants. So I'm hoping this year they are going to get bigger. I am trying to exercise some more self-control and cut some of my smaller plants less. Just seeing what my Hoya Fuwawensis did in 11 short months, being able to grow so much and bloom when I didn't touch it, I didn't cut it at all, gave it a lot of fertilizer, gave it a lot of attention, let it do its thing. I really want to do that with my Hoyas more this year, just to get bigger plants, to get new growth, and then once I have more established plants, I'll cut them more. But for now, anything that's small, unless it's growing really weird, like I do have a Hoya in there that is growing weirdly that I think I'll cut, I want to just let them be, let them do their thing, you know, because I want to see more blooms. I have some plants that bloom all the time, like the Lacosa, but I want to see more blooms this year, and hopefully I'll be able to do that. But if you like this video, make sure to give Nutmeg and I here a thumbs up down below and subscribe so you don't miss anything from us here on the channel. Thanks again for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one.